I've seen what love can do to you when someone does not want to compromise with you, when someone makes you feel less, when someone makes you feel like you're not enough, or like these feelings when someone who you care about makes you feel like, why are you making me feel like this, like sad. Coming at you live from Sunnyside, Southern California, it's your baby boy. Welcome to the first episode of my podcast, which its name has not been originated yet. It has not been written down yet, but I do have some ideas. There's a reason why I wanted to record today, a very specific reason, because I was just very passionate today to want to talk about what we're going to talk about tonight. But no, I thought it would be like a really cool thing to just do my own little setup for like a little podcast, a little camera right here, a little camera right there. And I don't know, I was kind of looking at this kind of like a therapy session. I haven't had one in a while. And after we finish talking about what we're going to talk about tonight, it's going to be like that too. But I'm also kind of a little irritated because I just recorded for like the past hour already. This is my second time recording and I lost that recording. I fucking deleted the audio file, but it's okay. We're back to it, baby. What I wanted to talk about today. Real quick. Just to tell you some ideas I had in my head for the podcast name. It might not even be a podcast, honestly. This might just be a one-off, but excuse me. I've always wanted to do a podcast. I don't know. I just felt like I needed to live a bit before I, can courageously sit down and say that I'm recording a podcast. But I've always wanted to do one, so I've tried to come up with names over the years just for fun. And a name that I have always wanted to, a name for a podcast that for myself, a name for the podcast hosted by me that I've always thought was a cute idea was the Baby Boo Cast. So, like I love saying baby a lot, right? And so I've always thought it'd be cute to have a podcast named Baby Boo Cast because it's like BBOO Cast. So it's like baby, like BB, and then OO. So it's like Baby Boo Cast. I don't know. I just thought that was cute. But what I wanted to talk about tonight, though, because like it has gotten in my field and in my head, it's taken up a lot of like neurons in my head these past couple of days, this past week. There is a wonderful, beautiful show out right now on HBO called The Last of Us. It's a adaptation of the beloved video game, which I'm a fan of. I remember growing up playing that game a lot. It's kind of crazy to think about that because didn't The Last of Us come out like many years ago? It's like 2023 right now, and the game came out in like 2013 or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been a bit. And I'm a big fan. I love the story like so many other people. And this show has just been taking the world by storm. Like it's a good fucking show, and a lot of people love it, same as me. And I wanted to talk tonight specifically about episode 3 of The Last of Us that came out this past week. The show comes out every Sunday, but episode 3 is the recent episode, and my goodness gracious, I'm going to be this is going to be kind of like a spoiler cast. So from here on out, spoilers. I just want to talk about the show. If you haven't watched the show yet, or if you're not really that interested and won't ever watch the show, then please keep on listening, because not only am I going to spoil it, but I also wanted to just talk about it, like just other aspects of what this episode has brought out of me, So to start off, like The Last of Us episode 3, it was like this beautiful character piece about these two characters falling in love and growing old together, and then just living, and it was beautiful, man. Like one of my favorite, well, first off, just to introduce myself for anyone who doesn't know, and I'll just introduce myself for those that already do know. My name is Stephen Vo. I'm 27 years old. I'm a content creator. I've been doing this for full time for like almost 2 years now, and I am the type of person who I love people. Like I love trying to understand life, myself, people, trying to understand why things are the way they are, why I am the way I am. So I'm always thinking, right? I always have thoughts. Sometimes it's hard for me to put those thoughts into sentences, though, and meaning. I'm very much a big fan of emotions and feelings, but sometimes you don't know. You can't really explain those things that you feel to people because there are no words to explain. Sometimes you just feel what you feel, and yeah, that's it. Like it's okay that some people will never understand you. And so this episode really spoke to me, and this story has really been speaking to me a lot because it just, excuse me, it talks about that. It shows that. It delves into like character, and it delves into people and the emotions, the different things that, sometimes you think about, but you don't think about. And the show, the story is based in a post-apocalyptic world, like a little basis on the show. The show's about basically the premise of it is like society has fallen due to this virus, this fungus that has taken over. Governments have, ended, and people are just surviving now. So if you've ever read or watched the movie like The Road, or just those sort of stories where like it's just people surviving, like The Walking Dead kind of too, it talks about the relationships and the emotions and the feelings and just the characters in a world like this. Like, how do we live on? How do we survive? How do we view ourselves, others? Yeah, and a big emphasis of this episode, specifically episode 3 of The Last of Us, was a big emphasis on love. At least that's what I took away from the episode. So I'm going to be talking a lot about love and the many different sorts and types of love, that love and the different emotions that love can bring out of a person. Because for me, as a young man, for the first time in my life, I've been in love. I've fallen in love, and although my love is young and new and fresh, like there's still many different facets to it, versus a love that someone has experienced for a decade. The love specifically in this episode 3 of The Last of Us, that I feel like is portrayed. And what I think the show was talking about was how love, there's this part of love that very rarely do many people get to experience, is that the longevity, I guess the most simplest way I can explain it is the boring side of love, the day-to-day of living with someone. The nuances of like of just time, like falling in love with someone and being with someone in the beginning is different from when you're like years and years in, right? And I think that's what this episode was trying to portray, at least what I understood from it, and it's why I wanted to talk about it, because I thought it was very beautiful. But yeah, so we're going to delve in right now. I've already spoiled the episode. So if you're still here, baby, you're either here for the voice or you're just here because I don't know why the fuck you're here. But The Last of Us episode 3, I am a big fan of the game, so I already know the character of Bill. The episode revolves around this character named Bill. He's this prepper, this antisocial, just, I guess you can say conspiracy theorist, someone who is just like, fuck the government, ready to kind of just, he doesn't really give two shits of what happens to the world as long as, he's okay, right? So he's that sort of guy, right? And in the game, when you meet him, he is that same sort of guy, but he's alone. In this story, in the episode, though, he's still alone, but what's different is that he ends up, the show ends up showing us the relationship he has with this other character named Frank. And in the game, which I remember the first time I experienced the game, was when Frank isn't in the game, but how you find how he's still in the game, but he isn't in the game the same way as he is in the show. How you find out about Frank is that you stumble upon his dead body in the show. He's hung himself, and then he's left a note behind. And Frank and him were in a romantic relationship, and they were partners, right? But how it plays out in the game is that they got into this big fight, and Frank ended up just leaving. He didn't want to like be with Bill anymore. He didn't want to be confined, because Bill is the type of person who is like he's just very like stuck in his ways, you know. He likes to be you know, how do I explain it? Like he just likes to be on his own, you know, and he doesn't want friends. He doesn't want to like, you know, be disturbed. And Frank was the sort of person who just wanted to live, who wanted more from life. And even though they were in love, it didn't last. Excuse me. And so that's how we find out about Frank in the game. And it was very sad, because you see the scene where like, you know, Joel is like saying like, who's this person like that we see hanging? And then there's this moment in the game when like Bill is just frozen, just staring at the body like from the ceiling. And it was crazy, man. So being able to see Frank in the show and how the show portrays these characters was, I personally thought, was way better than the game. I like, so far, like, I feel like the game and the show kind of complements each other very well, right? But my favorite part was definitely the more expandedness of these characters and this universe, you know. Didn't get that much in the game. I mean, there was, but in my mind, from what I remember, the game's focused more on Joel and Ellie, right? The main characters of the game. But the show has been wonderful to be able to give us more of, you know, side characters and history and all that. So, but this episode definitely changed and leaned in its own way when it came to telling the story of these characters, Bill and Frank. So what we experience in the episode is that Bill, it takes us through the love story of Bill and Frank, how when the first moments when Bill meets Frank. And it's crazy because like we get a backstory on Bill too. We see the beginnings of when like the epidemic was happening, when you know, when people were getting evacuated from their towns, when people were getting when the military was coming on through, you know, like when things started going to shit. And I think the time frame in the show was that things started going to shit in 2003, so it was like around then, like early 2000s. You see the beginnings of how Bill's all like, yes, like finally fucking like fuck these guys, you know, like the military, I'm gonna go do my own thing. It's funny, you finally see this character who we don't know much about in from before when society was okay, but we know him very well when society goes to shit, because it feels like he's been waiting for this moment forever, right? And we see him kind of like, you know, get in his car, you know, he's in this town and everyone's already evacuating. He drives to like Home Depot and shit. And he grabs supplies right away. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he's like he's living, right? And he preps right away, and that's his life. And that's the Bill we're introduced to. This person who's just very shut off and just who can give two shits about other people and society. Because it seemed like he was very shut off when society was still here, when people were around, you know. So he's always been an outcast, is what I'm trying to say. And then it takes us to the very first moment when a couple of years into the epidemic and when things are falling apart. He's put up like wires and gates and everything, and he's like claimed this space, like where he's living, this town. It's just him. And he has everything he needs there. He's cooking steaks. He's just very living. And like infected would like come on through, and he would just like watch them on the camera from his home and see them like explode. And he's like having fun, you know. And then we see him from that moment. And then one day, one of his traps is set off, and he goes checks on it. And it's Frank. It's a real person. And it's this handsome fucking man, right? And, you know, like it's very, very hesitant. You can see that Bill is like on edge and stuff. But Frank, from the very first moment that we meet him, we see like this guy who, at least for me, when I saw it, like, I feel like other people can interpret it like, oh, this is like a raider. This is like someone who like, you know, you don't want to, in this sort of society, you don't want to trust too many motherfuckers, right? But from the very first moment that I saw Frank, I'm just like, oh, look at this little beam of light. You know, he's very like, he's very cautious. He's trying to like, he's like thinking of Bill. He's like, you know, like, I'm sorry. like I was just coming on through, and Bill's like, like with his gun out, is like, who are you? Like you need to leave. Um, but you know what's beautiful though? Like now that I have watched this episode like 3 fucking times. The first time I watched it was, the first time I watched it on my own. The second time I watched a bit of it with my girlfriend, and it was, first off, it was beautiful to kind of see like someone who's never played the game and who's like new to this story, like experience it through this medium, because I feel like so far the show has been like doing so well of like, or even better at portraying this world and these characters, and seeing her build her own connection to this world and these characters has been lovely to see. Like she has her own story now when it comes to experiencing this world, to her connection with it. And that's a gorgeous thing to see. And so like I was very happy to, and I was so excited for her to experience it the way she is. And then the third time I watched on my own earlier today, because I was just so invigorated and wanted to like talk about it, And so what I was saying before, when it's funny because now when I watched back that moment, they both seem to kind of be like, they were on edge at the beginning when they first ran into each other, but right away after talking a little bit, you just kind of see that they both like, you know what, I'm okay. Like I think this guy is a good guy. I think like he's not gonna do anything crazy, because like right away Bill, like, as they kept talking and Bill's on edge, but then he, Bill's like, Frank is like, invites himself in, kind of just like, like I'm kind of hungry, I'll get out of your hair, but I'm kind of hungry. And then Bill's like, oh, God damn it. And you can kind of see that, at least to me, what I was interpreting, I'm like, Bill kind of sees this motherfucker like he's really cute, Frank is really cute. And Frank just, I feel like he had that sort of presence to him that was just very, like a nice presence, like a good aura. And I feel like Bill kind of like caught on that. But then as, the episode goes along, Frank ends up being the one who is reading Bill. And as like, that wonderful scene at the dinner table when Frank gets first invited in and Bill makes him like that wonderful, lovely little dinner and picking out this gorgeous wine, and like like Frank right away like sees right through him, and I feel like that is the sort of archetype that I love and am a big fan of, like the introvert, the extrovert, and seeing Frank kind of like look at Bill like, oh, I know who you are, even if you don't know who you are. And right away, that is an aspect of people in love that the older I get, the more in tuned of that I am. I might not be able to like tell right away people's intentions, but I think when you know certain things and when you can catch on to certain things, it helps you understand people. It helps you understand yourself, And Frank being the way he was in the beginning of their meeting, and seeing him like kind of like check right away like who Bill is, was beautiful, because because as the story progresses, as the episode progresses, we just see how let me adjust right here. We see how Frank becomes the life, the person, because they end up being together, right? And there's no secret. They end up like living together, becoming a thing and loving each other. And we soon learn that Frank is the type of person who is paying attention to the little thing. He pays attention. And I feel like that's such a wonderful trait in people. I can't do that. I sometimes I have to try extra hard to really pay attention, like I have to really care about it. And so like it was kind of like, it was beautiful to see like this sort of character interacting with someone like Bill. But right away, Bill, I felt like he kind of just let down his guard and just like, he submitted to Frank, like, oh, like I've never felt this way. No one's ever made me feel this way. Even, and like, especially at the first meeting, that they two had, like, that cute ass scene when Frank, like after they ate and he's like, you know what, I should go, but before I go, I saw this piano, I have to go play. And I feel like it was his way of kind of trying to like really like check and see if his intuition of Bill was right, you know? And to see him, you know, get on the piano and he's like playing loudly, he's like not good, and then Bill's like, okay, stop, and then he's all like, why don't you play? And then Bill kind of like the way he plays versus how Frank played was so, oh my, I'm gonna keep using this word gorgeous because like I just fucking stumbled upon this word right now and I love it. But it was such a gorgeous moment when Bill was playing the piano. He was playing that song called Long Long Time. I forgot the artist's name, but that song is gonna be the main premise of the whole episode. And this person who you on the surface level you don't really think could play like this or sing like this with such emotion ends up playing it with such emotion, and he's just singing that song so gorgeously. And then afterwards, like a moment of quietness, they kiss, and one thing leads to another and they're together, you know. And one thing now that I'm thinking about it, I'm playing in my head, I love that fucking scene too when they were in bed together, like right after that. And like Frank asked, like, have you ever done this with anyone else? And Bill's like, I don't, oh, well, there was a girl. And he's like, yeah, you haven't. Like he knows right away that he is the first man that Bill has ever been with. And that was so lovely, you know. And seeing from here on out how Bill kind of like his demeanor, his walls just come down as this man just comes into his life with all this emotion and love. It just felt like Bill was missing this piece, you know, this piece that fits so perfectly, but it's, you know, it took the apocalypse to find. And it was gorgeous. Holy shit. Now I'm thinking about it, I'm getting like goosebumps again. But I fucking love the way I'm talking about this fucking shit rather than the first time I talked about it. So I'm so far so good, y'all. But as the episode continues, they're together for many years, and like it goes through the episode goes through like the little moments in their relationship, you know, moments of when they're fighting, you know, because there was a scene when Frank and Bill are like in an argument, and Frank's just saying like, you know, like I can't be like you, like I need life, I need to look around me, because he is like we keep talking about. I felt like Frank was the type of person opposite of Bill, where Frank sees and notices the little things, right? And Frank and Bill is more focused on right now, you know. He's not thinking ahead. All he can do is be here and protect and prepare. And well, now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, like I feel like Bill has all his life he's been preparing, so scratch that. But like what I'm trying to say is like they're different in some aspects, and this was a moment when they were clashing, and this is like 3 years later after their first meeting, and they're getting this fight. And during this argument, I was thinking in my head when the first time I watched it, I'm like, if they went the route that they did with the game, this moment would have been the moment when they had that big fight and they had to like separate. And that's, you know, in the game when Frank goes off and then he dies. So in my head, I was thinking that, but this is when the show kind of veers away. And in this moment, Frank's like explaining to Bill, like, I need to like see life. This isn't living, you know, this isn't enough. I need to just, he's like compromising with Bill, and Bill's like, you know, like it's not practical, you know, it's not practical to want to like go and paint like a building, you know, you're gonna waste paint. Or it's not practical to, you know, do this and that, these things that give life, you know. And then another thing I noticed in this moment too, when I was watching it, I'm like, I genuinely like this fight. I felt like these people weren't gonna like, you know, run away from each other. I felt like this was a moment, another aspect of love that the show portrayed, was how when you're in it and when you're feeling it, even during the apocalypse, I feel like when you're in it with someone, you feel it and you're just like, it's not gonna take one argument, you know, it's not gonna take one or two. Like, no matter how many arguments, we're going to work on through this. We're going to make it work. And you see this moment when, even though Bill's like mad and they're going into this argument about this stupid shit. Bill still is like trying to understand, trying to compromise. And this is another part of Bill that Frank has taken, that has brought out of him. And why it was so lovely to see. I was gonna say gorgeous again, but it was so lovely to see a character like that portrayed, someone who was so closed off, but now through love is having to deal with these new emotions he's dealing with. And that's something that I can kind of like relate to, because in my own personal life, in with my own relationships, whether romantic, platonic, no matter what it was, I felt like you, as time goes by and as you get older, as you learn, as you experience, and for someone like me who I'm falling in love for the first time in my life. I'm experiencing these new things. So I'm in this beginning phase of love, and this new thing I've never experienced before. But the love that I've felt in the past was different. In the past 10 years of my life, I've been in situations with people where I've I've seen what love can do to you when someone does not want to compromise with you, when someone makes you feel less, when someone makes you feel like you're not enough, or like these feelings when someone who you care about makes you feel like, why are you making me feel like this? Like sad, icky. I don't know. It's just like that sort of feeling. And I felt that in the past, but I've never felt the type of love I'm feeling these days, and recently in my life, about the curiosity, the hopefulness, the wanting to experience the little shit, to just the day to day, and I felt like it was another lovely and gorgeous aspect of this episode that really portrayed it beautifully, and to see them compromise with each other as they, as they meet Joel and Tess. That was lovely too, because you can just see how uncomfortable Bill is throughout the beginnings of their relationship, and then as we move on in the episode, we get to the point when they're a little older now. This fucking beautiful fucking scene with the strawberries. If you know what I'm talking about, the fucking strawberries, bro. It was such a good fucking scene. Excuse me. But there was a scene when a cute scene a couple years later. They're still together, living together. And Frank had traded a gun that they had, one of Bill's guns, for some strawberry seeds, and wanted to surprise Bill with it. And he drags him to like this little to where he was planting these seeds, and these strawberries are all like grown now. And the interactions they had in that moment versus when, like, in the beginning, like even 3 years into their relationship, was so different, because you can see when Frank tells him like, oh, I traded like one of your guns for like the strawberry seeds, and then Bill's all like, even though Bill's like, oh, these are so cute, wait, which gun? And then like Frank's all like, oh, it's just one of the little ones, but look. And then Bill kind of quickly just like, oh, wow, that's Bill. I mean, that's Frank, and that's another aspect of the fucking love shit that I noticed and fell in love with myself. I'm just like, yes, like that's something that I feel like I haven't gotten to yet in my life. I feel like that sort of love you can only experience when you're with someone for many, many years, right? When you get to the point where, oh, that's just them, and so when I saw that moment, like I got so emotional, and they ate the fucking strawberry, and then fucking Nick Offerman does his cute ass little laugh that he does, and when he eats it, and then Bill says that line when he's like, I'm so sorry, like I'm sorry that I'm getting older, and no, like basically he's thinking like, oh, like I want to protect Frank, because Bill is the type of person who, like, for the longest time has only been protecting himself. But now that this person that's come into his life has shown him this sort of new way to live, his person, the only person in the world for him, he's scared to lose that. He says that line when when they're sitting there together, he says like I'm scared, like I was never scared before you came along. And I fucking broke down, bro. I was just like, oh, Jesus Christ. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it right now. But that was such a gorgeous fucking moment, like, and I can feel a bit of that. I feel a bit of that. I feel like with family, the unconditionalness of that sort of love when it comes to someone who's been in your life forever, in that family sense, right? Um, Sometimes you think like, fuck, like, what if my brother or my sister kind of just disappears one day? Like, and you have that thought, like, I would be so scared. Like once I had this and now I don't anymore, And someone who's always been there, someone who like has given me this sort of like safety net. Um, and now I want to live for them. I remember so many moments growing up. I remember with my own brother. I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, fuck, like I can't imagine a life without him. I can't imagine like the I can't imagine a thought or a day that would come by where I'm just like um to not have to have that person in my life anymore, and to be scared to lose that, Um it's a scary thought. And like you see that moment when Bill like, he lets it out and he explains to Frank that like I don't I can't do this without you now. Like we stuck together. And so that was, oh man, now I'm getting in my feels about it. But that's what I'm talking about. That's why like this episode was so lovely, for me. And why I wanted to talk about it so bad was because like it brought out something so beautiful in me, and that's why we're here talking about it. But as the episode continues, there's some shit that happens, like there's a point when like eventually their town gets raided, and like Bill's defending, but he gets shot, and like Frank has to like take care of Bill, right? I think that was like the first time that like Bill was just he gets shot, and then Frank brings him inside, and like Bill right away is all like, call Joel. He like right away he's thinking of Frank. He's like, I need to know that you're gonna be okay. I need to know someone's gonna be here to protect you, right? And as he's like saying that and he's zoning in and out because he's shot, Frank is like fucking pouring alcohol into his wound and like fucking taking care of him. And then it was like a moment when like it really hit it on the nail that like, fuck, like this man that we first met in the beginning of the episode, who was just like, fuck the government, like I'm ready to just live on my own and be on my own and do everything for myself, is having these thoughts of like, fuck, he's thinking of someone else. He's thinking of like his love. He's like, I can't go on knowing that you're not safe. I can't, like, it's crazy. It's beautiful. It's like, romantic. And that's what this episode was, man. Like, and a lot of people online I was reading, a lot of people's opinions were the same, man. Everyone was just saying how this episode was just very, like, one of the best episodes of television that a lot of people have seen in a long time, or it portrayed such a beautiful relationship between two people, on screen. It was so gorgeous to witness. Because it just felt real, there was like honesty in it. And I feel like a lot of people kind of like took some things from the episode and saw a bit of themselves in it too, and that's like the base of wonderful storytelling and beautiful storytelling, it's just, and that's why I feel like this story specifically in a whole of The Last of Us speaks so well to people, because there's a lot of things you can kind of just grab from it and you can relate. But fast forward, the episode goes on, and this is the part when shit starts getting real. Shit was already real before, right? But this is the part when shit started getting real, was when it fast forwarded like 10 years into the future, and they're still together living day to day, and they are old as fuck. Like Bill and Frank are old as fuck. They've grown old together. Oh my god, they've grown old together in this post-apocalyptic world. And I was seeing like another fucking thing online too, where people are just saying how like they are the lucky ones. They in this fucked up world of The Last of Us, these two people who found each other by happenstance ended up meeting and then living a whole life together. And not many people, even before the apocalypse, not many people got to experience that, you know? Um, so it was really wonderful to see that. But the fucked up part was when we fast forward, Frank is in a wheelchair. Frank, it looks like he's like, he has a certain disease, and he can't move his legs. He can't really do much. And so it's up to Bill to be his caretaker, to take care of him, you know? And we see like these very sad moments when like you can tell that Frank is like in his head, like thinking like, this isn't living anymore. You know, I can't do this to Bill. Like, I feel like it's time for me to go, you know? And then we get to that fucking, excuse me. We get to that fucking sad ass scene when they are sitting in the living room and Frank explains to Bill, you know, like, I've lived enough. I think it's time for me to go. Like, I want to go. I can't do this anymore, you know? And the fucking face on Nick Offerman as Bill. And he is crying, and he looks so distraught, but so like there are no walls anymore with this man. There are no walls with this character. He has, like, over the years, he's been living with no walls, you know, when it comes to Frank. And you just see him so, like, his wounds are open. He's like just so open. It's like the best way I can explain it. Like Nick Offerman did such an amazing job with just portraying Bill this way. When he hears these words come out of Frank, where Frank wants to kind of just live his last day, you can see like he's like, no, I can't do this without you. I can't do that. And he's so like open. His guard is down. He has nothing to hide, and he's just like, I can't do this, you know? And of course, you know, Frank being Frank, you know, the love of his life, the only love of his life. And Frank's all like, please do this for me. You know, love me the way that I want to be loved on my last day. And then, of course, Bill concedes. And they go throughout their whole day. They go change into like some cute outfits, some cute suits. They get married, which was another fucking cute thing I saw online. Someone mentioned on Twitter. I think someone said that when the apocalypse started happening in 2003, when shit started going down, society never got to the part where, society never got to the part where gay marriage was legalized, right? So we had to go through their world had to go through a world where, you know, they never got to get to that part. And so to them in the show, when they got married together, when they put on those rings, that fucking beautiful scene when these two old people are putting fucking rings on each other, you can see how important that moment was. You know, how it makes that moment even more incredible and gorgeous, because I don't know, just there's more weight to it, you know? And so you know, like Bill's like taking care of Frank throughout the whole day, following his requests, and eventually they get to the dinner scene when fucking Bill makes them the first fucking meal that he made them when they first met, with the same wine and everything. And it was lovely. And you know, from that scene on, you know, we get to the part where when they were in the living room, Frank said, like, you know, like, eventually I want you to, like, at the end of the night when we have dinner, break these, you know, crunch up these pills, put it in my drink, let me drink it, and then take me to our room, and then let me fall asleep on your lap. And that's how he wanted to go. He wanted to go out like that. And, you know, we get to that scene when Bill and they have their last drink. Bill takes out this wine and pours it for both of them, crushes those pills in his, in Frank's drink. And then, like, They both drink away. And then there was a moment when Frank's all like, wait a minute. Did you already crush a bunch of pills into the wine? And then Bill's all like, yeah, enough to kill a horse. And in that moment, you can see on his face, on Bill's face, like sometime throughout the day, I feel like he kind of just came up with the idea, like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it with you because I can't do this without you. And Bill has that wonderful fucking monologue when he's all like, I'm old. I've lived. I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied. I've done enough, like there's not much more. There's not much more. These two have grown old together from the very first moment they met till now. Like I said before, not many people live the lives that they got to live, even before the apocalypse, and to see it so beautifully realized in that moment, it was so sad but so beautiful. That is a love that I have not experienced yet, and I don't think I'm going to be able to experience for a very long time. I need to live a bit more until I get to a point like that. But it was just so honest. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like some storytelling mumbo jumbo trying to trick you into this love story. But no, it just felt right. In the context of this world and their story, their love story. And so eventually, they fucking smile at each other, and Bill drags Frank to their room, and that's how their love story ends. And then we're caught up with Ellie and Joel in present day, and they stop by the house and they see a note that was left behind from Bill to Joel, and he does that wonderful he writes to Joel saying, like, we are the type of people who are here that are meant to protect those that we love and care about, and then Bill says, like, you can have everything, take what you need, use it to protect Tess. And like in that moment it was so sad too, because then Joel, like, he goes outside and you see it on his face, he doesn't say anything, but you see on his face, like, fuck, he has not been doing well protecting those that he loves, and he keeps failing. And so I felt like that was like a wonderful kind of send off for Joel and Ellie, like the rest of their story together. And so it was like it was such a lovely fucking episode. And to end it all off, they fucking did this bullshit. Oh my God. Apparently there was like a 2-hour runtime. There was a 2-hour cut of this episode that I think the writer filmed and put together, and it's out there. And I fucking want HBO to release that shit. I want to fucking watch this love story again. But they ended the episode when Joel and Ellie are driving off in the car, in Bill's car. They pan in and out of the room, from the room in which Bill and Frank passed away in. Because in the letter, when Joel and Ellie came, Joel tried to get into that room. But in the letter Bill explained to Joel, like, if you try to get into that room, I hope you didn't, because that's where Frank and I are. And we opened a window so that, when we passed, the smell wouldn't stink up the house. And so we just see that window. We see that window, and it was so powerful. It was like that wonderful scene. If you played the games, that certain scene that they do all the time when they look outside from the window, and it was such a gorgeous scene. And like I said, I don't think I've watched an episode of a piece of television like that in a long time, that gave me that sense of that ride of love, that ride of hopefulness, that ride of sadness, like I definitely felt empty afterwards. Like, holy shit, like, holy fuck, the game didn't do that with Bill, bro. um, but it was such a beautiful fucking episode of a it was such a beautiful piece of television that so many of us were so lucky to experience and really spoke to me. And I just had to talk about it. Like, this is why I started up this bullshit, to talk about it, and um I don't like, love is such a, what love means to me, like, now that we're done talking about the show and all that and how much I love it and that episode, what love means to me is, love is a choice. Like, I believe that love is something where you choose to love every day. Every day you wake up, you choose to love the people that you love. You pick the people you want in your life, um and you choose to have them around. Um and the older you get, the more of the more of you get to pick and choose who you let in and such, right? And to me, I've always thought of love like that. And to a certain extent, it is that, like, I genuinely believe that. But then it gets to the parts of love where, when you let those people in, when you experience companionship and love, and the length, the longevity of it, you start experiencing these other things that are, I'm gonna be on, are like scarier than any scary movie you'll ever experience. Like, I feel like love brings out the truest fears in ourselves. Like, I feel like love brings out our worst sides, our bright sides, our not so pretty sides. It's like, just through this one simple construct, there's so much that can come from it. I've talked about the video game. I felt like the first game, and I've spent many years thinking about it and hearing people's opinions about it, and I love talking about it. But I've always thought that the first Last of Us game was about finding love again, building that hope, that curiosity, and letting love in. So it was a very hopeful game. And then the second game, which I recently just finished, because I've just been in this Last of Us mood, it's about the ugly side of love, what love can do to us, how it can consume us in not so productive ways and not so healthy ways. It can carry us to our own demise, as you can say. Like, it can carry us to just someone who we just don't recognize in the mirror anymore, who we don't want to be. And that's what the second game, the more I thought about it, was like. But at the end of the day, it all spans from love. It spans from this simple construct, this thing that starts off from nothing, and turns into something. So, like, I talked about it earlier, but for the first time in my life, I'm experiencing love. I'm experiencing wanting. I'm like choosing someone, and I'm experiencing and from experiencing this love, I'm also like seeing myself change in the sort of love I have for my friends and family. Um, the not the best way I can explain it, it's not so much unconditional love, but it's more of like, I'm making compromises, sacrifices, little sacrifices, to find balance in wanting to be love for someone, to give someone something, to give someone a peace of mind, to give someone care that the sort of care that they deserve. Um, and that's what I've been experiencing in my life right now, and as time goes by, I hope to learn more about love, and I hope to see more sides to it. And there's also sides to love that I've experienced that it's not so nice and pretty, where in the past I feel like I I'm not enough, or I'm scared to lose it. I'm scared to lose the things I care about, you know, in my head, the things that I build up, but aren't really what they are or seem, or, you know, when you take a step back and realize. So that's the best way I can explain that. But like I said, man, like this episode, this show has brought that out of me. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why this show is so well renowned, because I feel like there's something for everyone, something to feel, you know, um, and I'm happy it exists. And I'm happy for you to be here. I'm happy for you to be listening. So yeah, that's all I got, man. Like I really like this second recording more than the first one. So I'm gonna do my best not to fuck up this one and lose it. But thank you so much for listening to this episode, this podcast. I don't know if this is gonna be a one-time thing, but I hope it won't. As I always do with everything I put out. I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you really enjoyed it, you know, like I'll try my best to do more, you know. Maybe, you know, this was wonderful for me to kind of just unpack. I genuinely, this past week, these past couple of days, I've been wanting to talk about this so bad, you know. And so it was like a wonderful little therapy session for me. It was a wonderful little thing for me to kind of just express how I was feeling without holding back or too many cuts and, you know, all that. So thank you for listening. You know, like if you watch the episode, if you have your own thoughts and stuff like that, please let me know. I always love hearing from you guys. I'm so thankful for you guys, and I'm nothing without you guys. So, you know, much love to you, and I hope that, you know, you find the love that you deserve. I hope that you give the love that that the people around you deserve. Yeah, man. Go have a wonderful, beautiful day. I'll see you next time. Bye.